have my footage.
So you're gonna do all. That's all your account.
Okay.
Oh. Hello and welcome to All About You with OMG and Friends, where we talk about the things that you think about and some things you don't. I am your host, OMG, along with my co-host today,
Daydream.
and as always, we'd like to thank you for joining us, and we ask that you please join in on the conversation, where your thoughts, your comments, and your opinions help drive the conversation. We know it's Halloween, so for those of you who celebrate that, okay, Halloween. I'm just not big on that, I'm sorry. And so we're going to talk about Halloween just a bit, as well as child sex. So with that being said, there are a few things that come to mind when you think of Halloween, and one's going to be dressing up in costumes and also carving jack-o'-lanterns, as well as consuming lots and lots of candy. Now, although it's fun to dress in disguise and collect treats, there's a much more, in my words, sinister reason for it than most people realize. You already know that Halloween takes place on October 31st, which is today, but there's something you might not know. Now, the word literally means hallowed evening and was known to early European celebrators as All Hallows Eve. Now, I want to bring up to your attention, you do remember in the Lord's Prayer, hallowed be thy name?
Mm-hmm.
The word hallowed, guys, means saints, okay? So at any rate, Halloween is, or All Hallows Eve is today, October 31st, and tomorrow is All Saints Day, which is November 1st. And both pay homage to saints. And so the name was eventually shortened to Halloween. Halloween falls on the 31st, as I said, and it's the ancient Gaelic festival called Samhain. And that was considered the earliest pagan root known to connecting Halloween and the purpose that we celebrated. And it occurred on this day, and it marked a pivotal time in the year when seasons changed, but more importantly, observers also believed that the boundary between this earth and the next became especially thin. So that's why people think that they can, at this time, talk to the dead and seance and summon spirits and all this other stuff. So that's how it started. And there are other cultures who believe in something similar as well, like the Jews have Yom Kippur. And I do know that the Catholics have All Souls Day.
Yes, we do.
You know, yeah, I was Catholic about 30 years, so yeah, we had All Souls Day. So, you know, again, this is all feeding into it. But the early pagan holiday of Samhain involved a lot of ritualistic ceremonies and is connected to the Celts as well as the Druids. And they were pretty much polytheistic, and which basically means they kind of worship a lot of gods. So they kind of took on Halloween as worshiping another god, not the one of daylight or the one of light. You're worshiping the god of darkness.
Of darkness, right.
The other day, guys, I was supposed to be at work, but stopped for a few minutes and decided to buy some water that I heard about, some black water. And I was okay with it. It had something in it called fulvic minerals, and it was black. So I was like, no, I got to get this and look at it and work myself into it. But it also had a strange look about it, and it looked like water, had the texture of water, was just black. But when I actually read the back of it, read all this stuff, and is this the new evolution of water, and yada, yada, yada. And then it says, enjoy the dark side. That was the reason I packed up the water and took it back. You know, again, everything is pushing
towards darkness.
The dark side.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I'm like, why would you put that on the water?
See, and when I initially saw black water,
You've seen black water?
I've seen that. I first came to it when it was on one of the Housewives, the New Jersey Housewives. So one of their sons started marketing it, and it was their business, and that's how I was introduced to it.
See, I don't watch it either. Okay.
Right. So this was years ago, and I had never really seen it anywhere.
I just found it.
Right, and I recently seen it.
Yeah, I was looking for it because I had heard about it. My friends back east, that y'all do know back east is a lot quicker than here.
Well, that's where
that's why
New Jersey.
Okay,
New Jersey Housewives.
That's why I know from DC and Maryland area. But
right.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you said that because it was last week, as a matter of fact, that I noticed it. I'm like, oh. Okay, Blackwater. I hadn't heard that since that season, since that season of that show.
Right, exactly.
Didn't think anything of it, but never once thought to look. Hey, let me pick it up and actually look and read and see what it says and how it's marketed.
I was in a hurry, so I did not. I wasn't even supposed to be in the store. That's the first thing. So I was running in to see if I can get some coffee. I like pumpkin coffee, so I ran to see if I can get some coffee. And while I'm in line, I noticed the water. I'm a alkaline water drinker, so I just kind of looked over to the side. And there was this 2 bottles of black water. It was $3 a bottle.
Mm.
And this was like Ross. I think it was Ross maybe. Anyway, so I go buy the water. Don't have time to read it. Got home that night
Right.
and decided, okay, let me look at this again. And I looked up fulvic, Fulvic minerals, which is what
Okay.
makes the water black. I also found out that it serves no viable purpose in our body. So there's really no reason to have it other than for
So
a
basically,
look.
it's just
It serves no purpose.
to color it,
Yeah.
more dye.
And the bottle is spelled BLK, so that's how
Right.
they spell black. But when I read it and it finally said something about enjoy the dark side, I just packed it up, found my receipt,
Yeah.
And
The
just
spell,
drop it off.
spell that again. What is it?
BLK.
No. The
What?
fulvic. What is it?
Fulvic, I think is what it's spelled. The way it's spelled.
Fulvic. Okay.
Fulvic minerals. But like I said, when I looked it up, it really didn't serve any viable purpose. But again, guys, I apologize for kind of getting off track. But that again is part of the dark side, like what Halloween is. You know, I am not a big proponent of Halloween. I don't think it's something that we should promote. But you know, again,
You see, and
it's
when
a
I was
personal call.
right when I was younger, you know, you loved Halloween because candy. We're gonna go and
That's
get
how
free
we all
candy
get-
and this
right,
and that.
That's how we all get stuff.
But the dressing up part was never really my thing, and it still isn't.
I don't like. That's what I don't like the most.
You know, and now I'm just like, oh, okay, it's Halloween. People, oh, okay, this and that. I'm like, and
Yeah,
so what?
really.
Like all right, I can't get excited. I have to pretend excitement
See, I don't.
when
I
it
don't-
comes to my niece because I'm just,
Yeah, for her. I
you
get
know,
that.
for her, but she's young.
Catholic Church made us go to the church where they had events, you know,
Right.
on Halloween.
Well, yeah, you
so
have the fall
nobody was out.
festival and
Yeah, we weren't out in the street, you know, trick or treating that sort of thing.
right.
They don't really allow that.
You see, when we were in a neighborhood when we were a lot younger, we had a neighborhood to go to. Then we moved out, you know, an unincorporated area, so it wasn't a developed neighborhood.
Right.
But we would go back to our old one where our cousins still lived, and
Oh,
we
yeah,
used
you
to
go with
trick or
your
treat
families.
there.
Yeah, right.
And we did that with my niece a few times, but now we just, you know, it'll be a fall festival or
Something,
you know,
Renaissance, something that kind of
some
keeps all
fall
that Celtic-
celebration,
yeah.
and then we'll take her to do that kind of stuff. So I'm not disappointed that it's a tsunami outside.
Oh, neither am I.
I'm not disappointed about that at all. I'm actually kind of glad because I really don't want her out there.
And I really don't
So,
understand why it is, guys. And if you have an opinion as to why you celebrate Halloween, it is known as the devil's holiday.
Right.
And as I said earlier, the Celtics and the Druids, the ones who were pretty much involved, they were polytheistic.
Right.
They had different gods and for everything.
Right.
And so this was the god of the dead and the god of the darkness.
Right. The Lord of Darkness
Right,
and
and
all
so
that.
everything now is so dark. You know, even TV shows. I mean,
Well,
TV
even-
shows come out of nowhere with a homo. Okay, I guess I was going to say like a homosexual tendency when it's not even part of the plot.
Right.
You know what I mean? It just pops up. But guys, on that tip, we'll be right back. We've got to go to break.
Am I in the-
Yeah, so black water. Oh, you was a fulvic
No. I wrote it to put it onto our.
I thought you talking about alkaline water.
Huh?
You talking about alkaline
It's
water?
not, well, it's alkaline because it's 8.0, but that's very low alkaline water. Alkaline, my machine makes up to 11.
Okay. Thank you.
Mine makes up to 11.5, but 11.5 alkaline water is actually for people with cancer.
Well, I'm talking about the bottle, the black bottle of water you're talking about.
Oh, you saw it?
Alkaline
Yeah, that
water.
is alkaline. It's 8.0. You pulled it up? Have you pulled it up?
No,
Oh.
I just know what it is.
Sound goes
Okay,
down
I
and
just
up.
seen
Don't
it.
go
First
first.
time I did that.
Social, economic, cultural.
See, I've never tasted it. That black water. I might do that. Now I really don't want to.
Oh, actually, once it says
I've
it,
got
it's
all that
there.
in it.
Conversation.
Reading a good book is intimate self-indulgence. Hi, this is Silky Smooth with the All About You show. I
Okay, so
recommend key
we have
ingredients to
a
make yourself
sign.
nourishing
Like I need to get
and sweat out
to
by
send
oral
off.
For Sandy Summer's
Each
part.
page is
Yeah,
like a
they-
pilgrimage
okay.
to self-discovery.
Wayne got it back to me real quick.
Ingredients to
Excellent.
make yourself know.
So he's
This
doing the
book will
water
stimulate
package.
your
I'm gonna
senses.
pick it out.
Begin your journey to self-love today by
Yay.
visiting
And then this is just some information. I need her to send out an invoice because he's gonna pay it now.
Oh, good.
But get that, yeah, because I wanted to make sure I got in on
In their budget.
their budget.
Oh yeah, it's October fiscal
Right.
started.
You ready to come back?
Colors of the rainbow.
I was on it.
I'm Cassidy. And I'm Chandler. And you're tuned in to the bridge. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. You're listening to All About You with OMG and my co-host.
Daydream.
We are talking about Halloween for the moment, and I think we'll kind of branch off into child sex and some other things. But, and I think I had to go to break because we were talking about how the shows now are so dark.
Right.
Charmed and, and all of this vampire stuff. And, I mean, it's just all perpetuating darkness,
Well,
and nothing is of the light anymore.
Well, even excuse me, even a lot of the music award shows.
Are they?
If you look
See, I
at
don't
that,
watch any of that.
well, see, I paid attention to it a little just to get an idea.
Mhm.
I'm not sure. I want to say it was last year, possibly the year before. If you looked at the AMAs, everything had to do with evil, gloom, darkness.
They have it all in our
Fires,
face, and
flames, horns.
I
Pay attention to the hairstyles of these celebrities.
those little things.
Yes.
Yes.
And they don't, it's not just, oh, it's trendy. No, it comes up every so often. And I honestly feel it's just a part of the rituals.
Well, it is. And I also remember sending you one day on my way home from work.
Mhm.
There was a sign that says, horns up, phones down, text later. I sent you guys.
Yes, you did. And
Horns up.
Well, with-
what the hell?
well, with that, I can tell you what it was.
Okay, please.
Okay, so it's a street sign, and it was basically just safety, the marquees that you always see on the
Right,
on,
right.
on the freeways and everything.
We should have told us. a week
So the
ago when I
horns
sent
up
it.
had to do with UT because it was also
Oh, okay.
the
see,
weekend
okay,
for
that was
UT,
some kind of game.
yeah, and
Okay,
the
see,
Oklahoma
I'm not a
Sooners
Texan,
game.
so I don't think
So
about
right, so when you initially said it, that's what made me look into it,
that. Okay, but
because
know,
I thought
Charlie,
that was
worked
odd.
up still.
Right, and then I saw it, and then I saw the sign myself. Except I saw where it said horns up, Texas fight,
See, I didn't see all
phone
that.
a phone later, not sooner, as in Sooner Boom,
Okay, see, I didn't
Boomer
get all that.
Sooner,
Okay, I didn't see all that. Yeah.
Oklahoma,
Because
that
I
type
was
of
worked
thing.
up about that. I text y'all right away like,
Right.
oh my gosh, can y'all believe I actually saw a sign that says, but they're getting that blatant. So
Right.
it's not like it's covert or clandestine. So it's really in your face like that. But were you guys aware that? And we're going to kind of go into child sex. But I do remember years ago, one of the reasons that people should not really engage in Halloween is the fact that they used to put needles and razor blades.
Right, you always had to get your
You
candy
always get your
checked. You
candy
couldn't
checked.
eat
But you wonder
anything.
who would do this?
Yeah, who would do such evilness? Any and everybody.
Well,
Unfortunately.
now I'd really be concerned. But yeah,
You know?
so I'm just wondering. I guess trick or treating is. I don't know if it's still as big or are people getting away from it. I turn my lights out and I'm done. So I don't really know. I don't buy all the candy because I eat half of it myself.
I think a lot of people are getting away from it, and I don't think it just had to do with the weather. I've been noticing it more and more that people are more taking their kids to fall festivals, community events
Yeah.
type of thing, and it's usually not on the day of. They'll do it the weekend of, especially
Yeah.
right now because it's during the school. It's a school night. But I have noticed that a lot of parents and a lot of people that I know personally, they've stopped taking their kids so much trick or treating and would just, hey, let's go to this party or this
And
event.
that's how, that's
let
how
you
we
get
did
dressed
it.
up.
Right. I was
Excuse me.
not ever big on the dressing up because I remember being invited, and this was years ago, to a masquerade ball at the River Oaks Country Club.
How fun.
I wouldn't go.
Really?
I don't do masquerades. I don't do all of that. Now, when they had a Southern plantation thing, now I went to that. The flowing Southern belle type thing. I did that because I
Okay.
just moved to Houston maybe about a year or so prior to that. But
Oh, so you wanted to get in on that?
the little Southern belle thing, I mean, I'm here. I may as well play the game. But
Right,
no,
when
I
in
just
Rome.
could not get into the masquerade ball. And and I guess that's one of the reasons I have a thing, just a tad bit of a thing with New Orleans. I have a thing with New Orleans.
Well, I don't blame you with all the
Yeah.
voodoo and
Yeah.
everything else. It's just, yeah.
It's a little more than what I want to take. But I don't know if you guys are aware that while they don't have lots of data and records to show that child molestation or child sex trafficking or any of that thing happens, any more on Halloween than it does any other time. But just be aware, I was surprised to find out that on Halloween, those people who are sex offenders
Mhm.
have to go into the courts.
Yeah, they have to report. They have to
report.
make
I didn't
sure.
know that. I know you knew that. You have to, that
They, for those who are required, they need to put their sign out stating that
That's
they're a
exactly
registered
right.
sex offender, or they have to make sure that they are registered. They can't have any Halloween decorations
That's
out.
what they said.
They can't have anything that invites children
I didn't know that.
or anyone of a younger age. They can't have their lights on. They have to make sure that their light is turned off. But you know, we expect for everyone else to be responsible, but as parents and guardians, we need to take that responsibility and action upon ourselves also.
Absolutely.
You know, it's disgusting, child, sexual predators, children, sex predators and this and that. Okay, well, what are you doing to encourage that though? Because we're talking about costumes and Halloween, and I'm sure people are like, well, what does that have to do with child sex and porn and everything else? It has everything to do with
Some
it.
little outfits.
Look at how you're
the
dressing your
outfits you're
children.
dressing these kids, these little
Even when it's
girls.
not Halloween.
That's
Okay.
absolutely true.
Last year for the rodeo, okay, for those who are not from Houston, from Texas, the rodeo is a big thing. It's rodeo season. This is a month-long thing. And at the rodeo alone, it's usually hot. There'll be times where it's cold because it's getting in between that time for us, Texans.
To get
Well,
some cold weather.
One of my partners that I worked with at the rodeo, as we're walking through to get to our area, he was like, he just was in shock and said, I wish my daughter would walk out like that. And I look up to see what he's talking about. It's your cowboy boots, but it's your Daisy Dukes,
All the
and
way
these
up.
are little girls. I mean, little girls, you can tell they're no more than 10. Okay, just from their faces, full face makeup.
But this is how, I used to.
This is on a regular thing.
Yeah.
This isn't even Halloween that we're talking about. But we allow our children to dress too much provocatively and too much like an adult. Yes, I get that they make your size. Just like with
Doesn't
big
mean-
women, it doesn't mean you need
have
to wear it.
That's
Okay, just
exactly
because
right.
it's in your size doesn't mean you need to wear it. Well, it was in the children's section. It doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't matter. Well, see, they're going to encourage, you to.
They just
to
want you
buy
to
the
spend money,
product.
absolutely.
That's all that's about, and I used to be a judge for children's pageants, as
Uh-huh.
well as Miss Black Houston years ago when we
Mhm.
had that here.
And that's the other thing that gets
you
sexualized.
have little kids.
Tots and tiaras, remember
That's
that?
exactly right. Dressing up like grown women in wigs and weaves and eyelashes and
Mhm.
makeup and little short dresses and outfits. So these kids grow up being, frisky and fast just like that. So it doesn't
Right.
change once they come out of costume.
Right.
That's
For them,
what-
that's everyday, normal. This
That's-
is how you act. This is
that's-
how you dress, and that's not. We're sexualizing
These
our,
children.
our children, and then want to get upset that. And please don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm not trying to sit there and say, "Oh, well, rape victims. How did they dress?" That is
No,
not
not
what I'm
doing
saying
that.
at all. These are children who don't know any better, who are looking to you for guidance, for you to shape them and let them know what's appropriate and what is not. There's a time and a place for everything. Okay, great. There's a costume party, not a problem. But you don't need to dress like the sexy nurse when you're 10 and 12 years old.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
and
You don't need to dress like that when you're in high school.
They do. I was going to
Okay?
say proms is the
Even
next
in high
best
school.
thing. They do it with proms. These little girls
Uh,
it splits all the way up to the back of their back almost.
Cut out
cut
dresses
out,
and
yeah,
everything
breast
else,
out.
and it's
We do all this. You want to
Mm-mm.
know why things like this happen. But again, it could be prevented if you were to take more control over your household and see what your kids
right.
are
Well,
wearing.
that's what they're wearing. It doesn't
I don't
matter if
care
that's
about
what they're
that.
going. My parents used to say that, and to this day, my family still says it. Well, just because they jump off a bridge, are
Does
you
that
going to
mean
go
you
do it?
have- Exactly.
Everybody's doing it. Be your own person. Be a leader, not a follower.
Absolutely.
That's
No,
exactly how we were raised. So, and all through social media, everyone's posting pictures of their kids and their Halloween costumes and everything else. So, I'm curious to know, not even just, why do you continue to celebrate Halloween, or what are your thoughts on that? But why do you dress your children the way that you do? Why or how is it that you're able to see that as cute? I'd like to know.
Yeah, I'm
You know,
curious
I'm-
about that as well.
Please
you know.
enlighten me. Let me see something different and
Yeah.
from a different viewpoint. Because as an aunt, as a godmother, I'm not having it.
Well,
It's-
as a grandmother, in my case, I have a little 3-year-old grandson, and by no means do I want him. And he's watching some of these little cartoons that are all ghosts and
right.
goblins, and then you can't sleep at night.
Right, right.
So I'm like, why is this stuff on? What purpose does it serve?
Right,
It's
like-
a cartoon, so he thinks it's
Monster High.
yeah.
I remember that as,
and I'm like,
Way back when it first
when
came
they
out.
start indoctrinating our kids this early. I was thinking about something the other day. We're so systematically inextricably tied to the system because I think a mother actually raises a child from birth until about 4 when they go off to school.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're in the system from 4 till 18.
Right, and you expect the teacher and everybody else to take care
but
of it.
even in there, we are being, taught. I don't trust any of our history. I don't trust this Halloween stuff. I don't trust darkness. I don't like any of it, and I don't think any. Just as Napoleon Bonaparte said, history is a set of lies
Mm-hmm.
that has been agreed upon. I want to ask you guys, and if anybody could call me, and I don't want you to Google it. I just want you to find out and let me know who is Eli Whitney.
The number is 713-789-0096. You can also text us at 833-OMGNU. That's 833-664-2638.
Yeah, I want somebody to call me. Don't look it up. Just tell me off the top of your head who Eli Whitney is. And we've got some pretty good shows coming up in the next week or two. One being, I want to talk to you guys about the Mandela Effect. But next week I want to talk to you about HR 1242, which a lot of us don't know about. But again, this is what we do. Like I said, we talk about the things that you think about and some things that you don't.
Right.
But the Halloween thing, like I said, the whole mindset, the makeup, the being outside, and I remember so well having guys come to the house when I've been at friends' house, because one of my girlfriend's birthday was actually yesterday, so we would go hang. Birthdays back then you celebrate 2 days, if not the weekend. So we would do that, and then we'd be still celebrating today. And kids would come to her house, and you had kids, and I know kids are tall. Don't misunderstand me. Everybody's not the same height. But when you have people standing at your door that are 6'1", and you got on a costume, and you got a big old shopping bag, and you're at the door.
I have mixed feelings about that.
I have serious.
So Halloween, I see it. Yes, it's a part of your childhood. Okay. So I have mixed feelings. I don't have an issue if you're a big kid. Okay, if you're an overgrown kid, I don't have an issue with that if you still want to trick or treat. I would much rather you still want to be out there trick or treating and having these harmless pranks and everything like that than be out there on the street trying to be grown.
Right.
And, trying to, be a thug and let me be viral and do this. No, I would much rather that than all the other stuff. So I have mixed feelings about it. I don't agree with Halloween.
Yeah.
I'm not into the dressing up. It celebrates a completely dark thing that the world is encouraging, and we're sheeple and we just continue on with it.
We go along that
right. So
wide road to destruction.
Right. So it's a give and take. I don't agree with it, but at the same time, if they're gonna be out there doing it, I'm okay with the 16-year-old wanting to get candy.
I get it.
And trick or treating, and I'm cool with that. I don't have a problem with that, especially because we sexualize our children younger and younger.
Oh yeah.
That childhood is taken away at such an early age. So if they want to hold on to that little bit of childhood innocence, that little bit of innocent fun, by all means, let them do it.
As long as you can get away with it.
Right. Well, what state is it? Virginia?
I don't know.
That they're arresting if you're 12 or older and you're trick or treating. That it's a crime.
That's what I'm saying. Because at this point, I remember going to my friend's door with her when she was passing out candy, and I remember saying, "Dang, that's a big kid."
Mm-hmm.
And so.
Well, here in the South,
I know
so
they cornbread fed and all of that, but wow. And it just kind of frightens me because you got a 6'2" youngster.
Right.
At a certain point, even if you are young in age chronologically, you can. I'll buy you a bag of candy. I just don't need you.
Come back tomorrow.
Right.
It's already 50 and 75% off. You'll get a lot more than what you're getting today.
But also, speaking of, and I guess tying in what we were talking about just now about these kids and sexualizing them very early, on the front page of that paper, Montgomery County is one of them.
Right, and for those who aren't familiar with the area, Montgomery County is just north of Harris County, which is the county that the city of Houston resides in. So, it states it basically has to do with sex trafficking.
Absolutely.
And
they had a lady who had turned in her 2-year-old baby.
Right. Traveled. Oh, here it is. In February, and this was just February of this year, mother Sarah Peters traveled from Houston to Conroe with the intention of prostituting her 2-year-old daughter. This mother traveled. It wasn't someone who came into her home and, manipulated them and groomed them and, duped them or anything. She purposely went from the city of Houston, drove up 45 to Conroe, her 2-year-old, so that way she could prostitute her daughter.
Her 2-year-old. Now, I'll tell you something that's even crazier. There were 2 black guys, 18 years old, who ended up filming their sexually molesting a 9-month-old baby.
I think I heard about that. There was a video and people on Facebook. I mean, people were actually, can you believe? Look at this, and sharing it. Why would you share something like that?
Why would you film something like that?
Well, they were sick. Their sickness, okay, that's why they filmed it. But those of you,
look at it and pass it
and pass it, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that in of itself is disgusting. But this mother was actually charged on three accounts of,
They gave her 40 years.
wow.
Where is that? They gave her 40 years in prison for that. You know,
That's
so I'm
it?
assuming, I'm assuming
That's all they
happening
gave her?
quite a lot. You know, but how do you give your 2-year-old baby to someone? And what they do naturally with this trafficking is they have, I think it's like labor. They have different categories of.
Yeah, they charged her with 3 felonies,
Mhm.
including attempted human trafficking. She was sentenced to 40 years in prison. So what? She gets out on parole in 15, 20
And
years.
she didn't want the kid anyway, so she won't be able to see
Absolutely.
the child anymore. So, that's not a
So
big
she
deal
gets
anyway.
it, and it says, "quote It happens fairly frequently where we have adults basically trying to sell kids for sex." And this is the chief of the county special crimes bureau.
Yeah, Montgomery County has put a lot of stuff in place, and I think they have somewhere on there. I think it's on the other front page where they give you all of the stats as to how the trafficking is broken up.
Wow.
You know, where you have, I think.
Oh, okay. The specific
the
industries.
specific industry.
Oh, okay. There's 100 cases of illicit massage and spa businesses, which is typical. You know, happy endings, massage parlors. People automatically think, okay, yeah, prostitution.
Yeah, right.
You know,
at the top. So you take kids there. I mean, that's.
Well, no, that's it's sex trafficking. Think about it. Foreigners, you tend to have those of Asian descent,
Yeah.
non-English speaking.
But they say a lot of the sex
So-
trafficking starts around 7 or 8, and goes as high as 17.
And see, I would go younger than 7, 8. I would definitely go younger. Think about how many babies and how many
Well,
toddlers
we just talked about
or go missing.
2-year-olds.
There's 1 million children per year. 1 million children per year that go up missing.
Well, I think a lot of that has to
And
do
look at
with,
how young that they are.
but I believe that has a lot to do with Halloween and some of the devil worshiping stuff because they forfeit or just
The sacrifice, human sacrifice.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And then, you know,
And then I think we told y'all a couple
Cannibalism
weeks ago,
and everything else that goes
cannibalism,
with
you
it.
go when you've got babies' parts in some of your fast food that you guys are eating
Right.
and not even paying attention.
Yeah.
I don't know
The
what to do.
pork and everything else
We
that
come
you
every Wednesday to try to bring you up to speed on what's going on. We know, but you know, what good is knowledge if you don't share it? So
Right.
we're just trying to share it with you.
So, Texas's top industries for sex trafficking in 2017, 31 cases of escort services, so high-end prostitution, right? 31 online ads or venues that were unknown, so Craigslist and Backpage and all that good stuff. You have 54 cases of residence-based commercial sex. Now, this I did see
In the neighborhood?
in a neighborhood, suburbia,
Yes.
and
uh-huh.
it was basically a divorcee, you know, ex-housewife. She's a divorcee, and this was in a suburb. This was in a residential area
This is a
in
couple years
Humble.
back?
No.
Oh, because I remember
This
a
was
story
maybe a
like
month
that.
ago.
Okay, I remember a story like that several years back.
Something as recent as maybe a month ago, and I have I know a lot of people who live in that area, so it happened not too far from
Wow.
where they live at.
And they live in nice neighborhoods and really nice houses.
And it's just a regular old neighborhood. And what tipped them off was that neighbors were like, "There's a lot of traffic coming in and out of
Watch
this
out for
house."
your neighbors then.
This is why you need to get to know your neighbors.
Yeah,
you know?
a neighbor will call in on suspicious activity.
Right. There were 76 cases where it was hotel motel based, where they agreed to meet there, and that's where they got caught at. And like I said to begin with, 100 cases of illicit massage and spa businesses.
Wow.
Happy endings.
I mean, there are a lot of places out there, and like I said, they're trying to sell these kids, and you know, in parking lots, they're trying to sell them anywhere. And I don't know if that's all drug related or they just don't want the child.
It
You know, it makes you kind of wonder. You know, you don't have to have them if that's the case. But back to, you know, again, how we overly sexualize these kids, and so you have sex trafficking, and now you also have child porn. Now, I watched something today on TV. I happened to have caught it actually, where a lady on one of these shows, Talk to Maury, somebody, where she was upset because her little girl was starting to do sexual acts. You know, they went into the bedroom. She was like 3. They go into the bedroom, and she's got one of her little toys on one of her little stuffed animals on top of her.
See,
And they said how. So the mother was like livid. She was no longer with the dad, and how did you do this? How you do that? And
where did she learn that from? That's learned behavior.
That's the learned behavior. That's right. But they said that they were speculating that the father had actually watched porn with the children, with this child. So again, who does that?
If a parent is watching porn with their child,
Who
what
does
else
that?
is their parent doing? Because that means there's no boundaries.
Absolutely none. You got a 3-year-old, 2 or 3-year-old, and you got them playing with themselves and watching what they see on TV and on the screen, and you go to school. That's a good way to get CPS in your business.
Right, absolutely. And you know what? We need to pay attention to things like that go on in our children's schools.
They're not paying.
We're real quick to, oh my God, I can't believe that little boy did this or that little girl did that. Look at the bigger picture. Where did they learn that from? In my niece's school, that happened, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but this little boy was able to pull this little girl's pants down.
What?
Yeah, he pulled her pants down and thought it was so funny and everything else. And of course the parents were appalled. I can't believe it. He needs to be disciplined. He needs to be suspended, this and this and that. And my mom, being the voice of reason, said, wait a minute, but what's going on with him at home?
Well, you have
And
to
they
go
all
back
got,
to
yeah,
the
the parents and
environment.
staff, and they just got quiet. Like, what do you mean?
That's
She's
the
like,
operative question to
he learned,
ask.
right, he learned that from somewhere.
Somewhere.
Where did he think that it was okay to treat another person that way?
And that it was acceptable.
But to treat a little girl that way,
Mhm.
this
He's
little
seen it.
boy.
He's seen it.
Exactly.
I mean, I've got stories. I have friends that
I've got
principal of schools and little
all kinds of
kids have
stories.
been in the bathroom doing oral.
Mhm.
I mean, these are kids. You're talking
Right.
5 and 6.
Mhm.
Again, it starts at home. It is a learned behavior.
Right.
And your mother.
Kids
that's
pay
the
attention
operative
to
question.
everything that you're
you
watching.
do.
Oh, The Walking
they're not
Dead,
paying
this and that.
attention.
Oh,
They're
they
not.
don't get it. They don't understand.
Don't
Yes, they
think
do.
That they don't. And that's the sad part, because we underestimate. Children are like little sponges. This
Mhm.
little thing right here, that suck up everything that's in their
Everything.
midst. And so you have to be careful what you expose your children to. But I think the candy thing needs to just pass on, and the Halloween costume. And there's big business. There are places that are only in business for this one day.
Right.
I mean, huge warehouses that sell costumes, and
Oh yeah, they're only here.
I mean-
they're only here for the season.
that's what I just said.
Absolutely. They're
That
only
one
here for the
day,
season. That's
they've
all they need to
made-
do. Then they'll shut down, and then they'll be firework, like
Right.
a firework stores.
Right. But they make big money that one. I guess they're just seasonal. They'll come by, like you said, for 4th of July with.
Well, especially now with social media, because you can't wear the same costume in a row.
And somebody. Has
You
pictures and
for the
stuff.
gram, you got to make sure that you're the flyest, that you're the sexiest, that you're the most provocative, that you're the most talked about, that you're.
See, you know what? There's another sign that I see on my way to work, and this bothers me. I don't know why. It's called see. The billboard says "see and be seen." For some reason, that just wreaks havoc in my world. For whatever reason, see and be
Right.
seen. That's all we're interested in now.
Is being
And little
seen.
girls are wanting to be seen. Okay,
Mhm.
the little teenage girl, she wants to be seen.
Right.
Why why are we capitalizing and making that such a big deal when it's creating a
We have allowed ourselves
Yes,
to
to
be
see
trained
and be
to be the doggy that jumps through the hoop and turn all these
How
tricks.
high?
How high? Jump. Do this. Do that. Sit. Stand. We have allowed ourselves to be trained that way, and
well,
we can't
we've
even
been
see it.
dumbed down so much, and so we're not paying attention because they have us all, kind of overwhelmed with subliminal seduction
Right.
on everything that we're doing. Every show that we watch, there's some darkness, there's some homosexuality, there's something. I mean, there's a tad bit of each little thing that's going on in our society is going to be in that show.
Right. Right. And there's a lot of these cartoons that, if you pay attention to them and you listen to
they're
them,
vulgar. If you look
they're
at
vulgar.
This, yes.
and I'll admit, I was one of the ones I'd walk
We
in
all-
and crack up laughing because I was like, "What are y'all watching?"
It takes a minute to
Right. It's like, wait a minute, this isn't for kids. And specifically, I walked into my bestie's house, and I think it was Rick and Morty that was on. And I forget what the comment was, but it cracked me up. And I was like, wait a minute, is this a cartoon? And they cracked up laughing. They're like, yeah, it is. It's more for us. The kids are upstairs because they watch everything that their kids do. And when they realize, okay, wait a minute, it's a little...
It's a little deeper than
It is a little, it's a little rocky. The kids are too young. They don't need to subconsciously already know or think about some of these things. And so they'd have the kids upstairs. So the cartoon was for them. But I couldn't believe it because it's on Nickelodeon.
Now you do
It's on
know
Cartoon Network during the day.
Now Walt Disney's another one. You do remember when we did a show? I forgot what the show was, but somewhere in the midst of Walt Disney's brouhaha as far as all of the decorations and stuff, there was a penis in the middle of all of this. This is the child's thing. I had it on my phone a while back. You remember that? Anyway, it just showed that while you're looking at all this castle, it had all these castles and all the points. And
Right.
in the center of that
Right, what the
was a
shape
penis.
actually
Mhm,
was,
it was a penis.
and
I'm like,
also
this is for children.
wasn't it? I want to say something in Alice in Wonderland
They
also
all have it.
with the mushrooms.
They all have it if you watch it.
First of all, the drug use. Okay, do I take this pill or that pill? Now I'm
Really?
big, now I'm small.
Really?
And now the Cheshire Cat is, it's vapor and this and that. So it's
Are
drug
you
use.
serious? I
But
don't
the
watch-
mushrooms themselves, I want to say that they had a phallic resemblance.
Really?
I think there's a whole bunch of
There's
stuff.
a lot of stuff, again, for subliminal seduction, and these kids are smart. I mean, it doesn't take you long. I had it on my phone. I wish I could put it on the air, but if you look at some of the Walt Disney stuff, even, was it Roger Rabbit? All of them had.
Oh,
a
Roger
lot
Rabbit,
of
come
sex.
on.
I'm just saying,
That
a lot
was
of
never
them.
meant. That was never meant for children at all. They never marketed it for children either. So I have to give them that.
Okay, well, that's
on
a
it.
good thing, but I know that.
But yeah,
was
Who
listed-
Framed Roger Rabbit?
That was listed in
Come
all of
on.
the cartoons that were all, showing
Right.
provocative stuff for children. And the kids, they don't know what it is, but they'll continue to see it and
Right.
see it. Then all of a sudden,
Yeah, I watched it. I'm like, oh, it's cool because it's a cartoon and it's real people at the same time when I was younger to watch it. But it was as I got older and I'm watching it again, like when I was in
Well, you
college, I was like,
catch
oh, was I
stuff.
really watching
no, you
this?
catch
Like
it when you get older.
some of the stuff that they said. But we will take a short break. We'll be right back.
Oh yeah, they'll put it right in your face.
Mhm.
I mean, all cartoons do that. They try to appeal to both audiences,
I know, right? But you got the little kid. I had one on my phone. This was in the middle of all these little castle points.
That's why I used to love SpongeBob, man. I still love SpongeBob.
Is that dirty too?
Oh.
Is that nasty too?
They put a lot of stuff in there. Like just with a lot. They had a whole episode where it was cussing. They was like bleeped out with dolphin.
Are you serious?
He was like, I'm an idiot. So I'm like, oh look.
How did they? Wow. Oh, I'm gonna answer this question tomorrow. Okay, Joy, as an educator, tell me about. Do you remember who Eli Whitney was? Was he a black man?
That's the first
Cotton
Cotton
Was he a black man?
That's not what you're taught. If you're talking about from school perspective,
I think we were because I remember
they
as part
don't
of Black
teach
History.
you that Eli Whitney is black.
Well,
You
now
learn
he's
in-
white. If you pull him up
You
on
learn that the person. This is the way I've seen it done educationally. Is
And I'm gonna
you just
need you to
learn
say
Eli
that.
Whitney created the cotton gin, but then later people tell you in Black history that a black person created the cotton gin. So if you put it together, Eli Whitney must be a black man.
I was actually taught that Eli Whitney.
Well, he's
was black
not.
man
Well, they didn't do that.
I'm gonna bring that up. If you, I'd like to have your from an
That's
educator
not
perspective. Because,
right.
Like back in high school, that's what I remember for Black History.
Well, you
Like,
Yeah,
have
but
rap.
Black history, but in the history book, they
In
don't-
regular history,
they don't
See, I'm gonna.
teach
Can I
you
get
that
you?
Eli
Yeah.
Whitney was black.
because I have
I'm telling you, in history, you just learn this man
That's
made a
why I
cotton
don't believe
gin that
history.
made it
That's what I
easier
mean
to
by
pick
selling
cotton,
Right.
get the crank. But then later
So
in
you're
Black
saying-
history, you hear that the person who created, they don't use Eli Whitney's name. They be like,
The
the
person.
man who created the cotton gin was black. Like, I've never heard them say, like in a classroom, Eli Whitney
The
was
man
black.
Eli Whitney
Right.
was
Well,
black.
I remember as a child being taught that he was a black man as part of.
Are you sure
you-
I
that they
remember that.
listen?
That's
Are
back
you
east.
But you-
sure?
Okay, let's
You
hold
ready
a
to come
conversation
back?
for the air. We ready to
Yeah,
come back? I want.
are you sure
Okay,
they
so we
use
had-
those words?
And we are back. Oh, are we?
Deductive reasoning is different.
And we are back. You're listening to All About You. We got into a little heated discussion here because I asked you guys, and I understand a lot of people don't want to get engaged or they don't want to, call in or whatever. But I'd asked the question, was Eli Whitney black? And or what do you know about Eli Whitney? I remember as a child being taught that he was a black man who invented the cotton gin.
Right, and I'm gonna put a little asterisk on that. You were raised
In
in the East.
Look at the picture she has.
So-
Joy, I still want our one of our engineers' opinion because she's an educator as well.
Was he
so She
mixed?
kind of broke it down. No,
Because
it's just
according-
the way- they've made him a white man now. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This is why I need to talk to you in a week or so
Or like they did with
about
Jesus?
the Mandela
Mandela effect.
That's what this is because you're taught one thing and then somewhere, in your travels around, conversation and for historical purposes or semantics purely, they've changed it. Joy, can I get you to say something about what we're talking about? No. But again, because I was back east, I was raised. He was a black man. Period.
What I'm,
See,
I'm a history teacher, but I
Well, tell us
I
when you
did
start.
AmeriCorps, and I'm telling you that they maybe recently,
Can you
but
be on the air?
they rarely say Eli Whitney is a black man together like that. They
Okay.
teach you history and say Eli Whitney created the cotton gin, but then in Black history, when they're doing that in February, you learn they don't say Eli Whitney. They say the person that created the cotton gin was black.
Can you break? I don't know if they could hear her.
I'm telling you, it's separate.
Yeah,
I've
in
never heard
it.
regular
What she's
history,
telling us, right.
they say Eli Whitney created the cotton gin, but in Black history, they will say the man who created the cotton gin was black. They never once say Eli
Together.
Whitney, a black man, created the cotton gin.
And so
Right.
that's what she said.
And all the
she's a
pictures.
historian, so she was
Right.
saying that you do not have the two together.
Correct.
But
Maybe
it-
recently,
and it-
but not.
Yeah, recently, I think just because more and more people are adamant about, no, this is our history.
But
We need
he's
to
not black.
put this.
We've got it on the
Not
screen.
according to
Eli
those
Whitney
pictures.
Now, according to this picture, this again, guys.
So I'm asking, like, was he
is
mixed?
part of what the Mandela effect. It's almost like being in two different worlds, or just the time things have just
But
changed.
it's
But
just
they're-
like what
but
they did with Jesus. Blonde,
exactly, they
blue
made him blonde
eyes.
and blue eyes. See
And he's
again,
not.
and none of our history is true. I don't believe any of it. I mean, I look at all of it with a jaundiced eye, and I don't believe the schools because, as I mentioned earlier, you relinquish your kids at 4 to about 18.
Mhm.
That means the system has them from
Right.
4 to 18. So they're taught to believe the same things that we were all taught once you go to school.
Mhm.
And so then things change some kind of way for convenience or make America great again. I don't know what the
Oh, to
purpose is.
make ourselves look better, and I say
Whatever.
ourselves as in people, Americans, because there's even an issue in textbook with Mexican history. You know,
It's
Texas.
not
We
true.
learned Texas history, okay, and you know
And
we
that's
were.
different from surely.
Oh,
from
absolutely.
Mexican history.
You know, absolutely.
So
They
the same
were
thing they did with us.
right. Texas, the South was one. They were smart and they outsmarted the savage Mexicans and everything else. No, you put something in English. Excuse me. You put something in English to people who don't speak or read English, and then told them, "Oh yeah, this is what I said.
This
I'm
is-
telling you, it's saying this. Just go ahead and put your
sign
signature and sign
agree
it."
to it.
That's how Texas was stolen from Mexico.
Well, that's not
Okay.
not only that. I can tell you how land was stolen from black people. White people would come and ask, on a farm, a slave, whose land is this? He said, "Well, we own this. Let me see. Go get your papers."
Right.
They go get the papers.
They don't know what it says.
and they snatch it out of their hands.
Yeah, rip
And
it
then-
up. Well,
And then
now
at
you
that
have no
point,
proof.
what does she have there? Can you read that?
It says the grand irony of all this is that the person who provided Whitney with the key idea for his gin was himself a slave, known to us only by the name Sam. Sam's father had solved the critical problem of removing seeds from cotton by developing a kind of comb to do the job. Whitney's cotton gin simply mechanized this comb.
Okay, she said, "Hold up." Okay, she's gonna see. We got a historian in here. She's not
So
gonna
that's
listen
why
till we get it
this
done.
is the importance of trademarking
Okay,
and
she
patenting
doesn't know
your
you.
ideas. This was a very early episode in this series. As it turns out, the story of Whitney getting his cotton gin idea from Sam is probably
Apocryphal,
apocryphal.
meaning after death somebody inserted it.
Oh,
kinda
which
like-
means after death somebody inserted it. Did not know that.
That's why
I think that's the first time I've seen that
And
word.
this is a published article from U of H.
Okay, a published article from U of H.
Guys, there's so much stuff I want to tell you.
Do your
in
own
the next
research,
in the
people.
next 2 weeks about
Don't-
all of these types of things.
Right,
that
don't trust.
We just accept the system.
Well, I asked
accept what
Google. It did. It
I
gave
don't
me
even
this
wanna ask
right
Google.
away.
of our ingenuity.
Engines of our ingenuity
Number 127, Black
Inventors.
by John H. Leonard from U of H.
by.
Okay, so that
Okay,
came
so
out-
it's
that excerpt
from the
came
article
out of his-
"Engines of Our Ingenuity," number 127, Black Inventors by John H. Leinhardt, and yeah, so there's the information, and I'll be sure to put that actually on the feed right now.
Yeah, but guys, you just gotta stop and slow down. Get out of celebrity status. Stop trying to read and be what's on the Kardashians are doing and what the regurgitation of the news on Daily Mail and what's her name, Wendy. All
Wendy
these
Williams
people
and all
are
that.
feeding you crap, and you know what? It takes up a lot of space in your head. So you don't want to take time for the things that actually matters.
Right.
And so, like I said, next week we're gonna talk to you guys about HR 1242, which was passed in January 2018 by your president. And the week following that, I want to introduce you guys to the Mandela effect. And so, part of what's happened with Eli Whitney is part of the Mandela effect. And very interesting topics, guys. I mean, we've just been, I think it was Malcolm X who said we've been bamboozled and hoodwinked and all this stuff. It's true. He said that in the 60s.
This
The
has been
information
going
that you're
on.
getting, you've been bamboozled. You've been,
Right.
fed the wrong information, and we take that and run with it because that's what the books say. The books are all wrong.
All wrong. So the
Halloween
history,
thing, all of this is wrong.
the history that you learned was wrong and watered down.
Mm-hmm.
The history that I learned was even more wrong and watered down, especially because it's here in the South. So
Which
it's
is a totally different thing altogether.
completely different altogether. And you have to include Texas history. And then we had, I think, like a paragraph of Mexican history that was
Well, that's
thrown
kind of
in
like
there.
Black history, got about this much.
Right.
Yeah.
All of that's completely
Y'all
wrong,
have-
which is still even more watered down to what my niece is now learning
Oh,
as far as
absolutely.
history is concerned. Because recently, within the last few years, it had to do. There was an issue with textbooks,
I tell you, they're all
and
wrong.
even now, the textbooks they don't read about. You don't learn about slavery. You hear about the workers who came on ships from far away
they're gonna
and how happy.
eventually-
That's why they sang, because they were so happy and everything else. And it's like, well, you can ask a kid now. There's what's a slave?
They don't
What does
know
that
because
mean? I don't get
their
it.
family has not kept them in the loop of what history is, and so again, but it's hard to do that when all of your information is incorrect.
Right.
All of your information has been
And
held
you don't
from
have
you, and you
anyone
don't have
who's
any accuracy.
trying.
Right, and so even from African culture, we would at least give verbal histories.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think we do that.
See,
I
and
do with my little grandson.
and for me, with my family, my great grandfather, we talked about this before. I have family members who rode with Pancho Villa during the Mexican Revolution, and great grandparents and great tias and stuff like that. Not only did I have great grandparents who rode next to him, but I also had great tias who were his pistoleras, the women who carried the guns and were out there fighting with them also. So I know
That's
that
the
because
soldiers.
absolutely. So I know that because my family
Told you that.
told me this.
And that's where the truth lies.
Right, and because my palan, he would sit there and he would sing to us and tell us stories. Hey, tell us about this or tell us about that. And so it wasn't, let's sit and he's going to talk to us. It was, okay, everyone be quiet because he's getting ready to sing.
Okay.
And it would just the same way that black people did.
That's right. It was your history, and you had to do it verbally. because
Right.
I will never forget when I first came to Houston. This just really floored me. This was like in the 80s, 1980 or something like that. And I was working on a master's in communications, telecommunications. Anyway, when time came, there was only one paper written in the topic of which I had chosen, which was Black Radio. And there was a gentleman here. His name was Carl Wendt. He was a white man that I had to go to get information
On
on
Black
Black history in Houston.
Mhm.
Did y'all hear what I said? I had to go to a white in 1980. I had to go to a white man to get Black history from Houston. I'm like, how backwards is that? There's something wrong with that.
Right.
I'm sure this man has passed away by now, but he was a professor. His name was Wendt, and I remember listening to him and recording his comments and just shaking my head like, I've left the East Coast to come here and play this game on this level.
Right.
Well, you all don't even know your own damn history. You don't. I mean, that just really. And even now, I just think we need to spend that time with our children so that they get Black history from Black people, or Hispanic history
See,
from
they have-
Hispanic people.
Don't they have
There's a
Hebrew
reason.
school?
Huh?
Don't they
Yeah,
have Hebrew
absolutely
school?
they do. They
So,
get
They
Yeah.
get all their history,
Absolutely they
right? And how it happened. So
I have friends that were from Scotland, and they spoke a language called Gaelic.
I wish I'd gone to Mexican school. I'd like to know
just
what
to know what,
seriously.
right, what they're teaching.
And I have it. It's really kind of dumb because all of my tias are teachers. So I don't know. Just right now, it hit me. Why didn't I ever once think to ask them, what's really the history?
What's
like,
really-
what did you learn about
About
how
our-
Texas
right.
was taken away? I always knew because my momo to this day, will sit there and repeat, when Texas was stolen.
She's telling, and everybody says it was stolen.
Yeah,
That's exactly
absolutely.
right. Just like the land from the slave was stolen.
Right.
Go get your paper. She go gets the paper, say they own the land.
Right.
The white man takes it. Now you don't have any proof. You can't even read. You just knew where
Right.
the papers were. Now
Right.
you're out of it. It was just stolen.
Right.
And so we're not given that information. And again, as you can tell from just the Eli Whitney thing, they're going to play this game with you and give you their history. As they say, it's his story, it's not necessarily the truth.
His story,
It's his
right.
story, you know?
Absolutely.
But as you can tell,
His, as in the white man's story.
absolutely.
people.
And we're not playing the racial card, but, you know, a lot of the misinformation, what did Lauren Hill, was it miseducation?
The
We've
miseducation.
been miseducated, guys, you know, and
We take it for
we
gold.
take it. I have girlfriends, like I said, she's back in Scotland now, but she worked here from oil and gas and the whole thing. And she was from Aberdeen, Scotland.
Mhm.
And they spoke Gaelic. And you heard me mention that this all came about, Halloween came about by a Gaelic festival
Mhm.
called the Samhain. But Gaelic to a Scottish person is kind of like Creole or Geechee
Okay.
to a French person.
Okay.
You know, it's like Gaelic is the broken Scottish language.
Mhm.
And so, you know, and same thing with here when you have the Creoles. I think part of it, I think it's called Geechee because I was married to one of them.
Right.
Creole guys.
Not quite sure, but I know it's a mix of
It's a
different
mix of
languages,
broken
French
languages,
and
yeah, right.
and
Spanish
Haitian and
right,
Spanish
everything,
and all that.
So it's a broken language, but
kind of like the Jamaicans.
we're all
You know, they have their own language when you hear
Absolutely.
them.
absolutely do.
When you actually pay attention. Really quickly, because we do have to go, thank you to everyone who tuned in to the show today during the live feed. Thank you, Stephen. He does say he is agreeing. Thank you, Joy, for posting the article. And also to Richard, Rachel, to Eric, to my mom, and to Pete.
Hey, Mom.
Really quickly with Pete, yes.
Hey, Pete. I like Pete.
Different Pete.
Oh, different people.
Different
I like
Pete.
His name.
But this is Firefighter Pete. Thank you so much for tuning in.
I
And
love
please,
it.
guys, don't forget, we still have early voting going on. Please go out there and
Absolutely.
vote,
Get out.
vote, especially with the information we just gave you today.
Yes.
So we will see you
on the radio.
next week on the radio. Tune in.